welcome.
You know I'm on when you start like that.
Yeah, we're ready to go. I don't know. I feel good. I feel good today.
I love that conversation. Like, she is just so insightful and grounded and I don't know, I just love it.
Yeah, and it was Heather Roe we're talking about. It was Heather Roe, owner of Kin Des Moines. She's amazing. She is so in tune with herself. Mm-hmm. She is so freaking interesting. You look at her and you're like, she's interesting.
She's so interesting. She's the PTO president.
PTA. I said the same thing during the
Is there a difference?
Well, PTO is paid time off.
Oh, shit.
And that's okay.
She could be that too.
I wish I was the PTO president.
Yeah.
I want some
that
vacation.
Sounds like a good job.
Jeez. Yeah, no, she was amazing. We'll get into it, but we had our auras read last week, mm-hmm. and she explained all about it. But I just want to say, for a second, to set the record straight, skeptics that don't believe in your auras, fine, don't. But then you also can't believe in your Enneagram. You also can't believe in your DISC assessment. You also can't believe in those professional things that you do that says you're a high D or because it's all the same thing. It's all just humans being interested in themselves and how they are perceived on the outside. And so if you're going to believe any of it, you should believe all of it.
Well, that's what she kind of got into too. It's like, it's perspective, and we all have our things that we believe in, and this just happens to be something that lights us up and interests us, and we believe in it and we see it.
They're so cool.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. If you're watching, look at that. Beautiful.
We are. Just two different orbs just
I know. I was actually so surprised, but you know what? That's what makes it cool.
Well, you're a lot more put together than me.
No.
Clearly.
No. Not necessarily. Yeah. Oh, my goodness. Well, before we get into the episode, who are you jealous of this week?
Jealous.
I can go first if you want.
Please.
Want me to save you?
Yeah.
Okay. Someone in our presence is having a glow up. And that happens to be a gas station. Oh. And that gas station happens to be, well, they're called here Quick Stars.
Yeah.
In Iowa, they're called Quick Stars. I think the parent company is Quick Trip with a K. Mm-hmm.
They're doing the most.
They're doing the most. They're putting in the work.
Uh-huh.
And jealous.
Yeah, and I see it. I mean, we see it clearly on their socials.
Yes.
They're also started a podcast, which who knew gas stations could start podcasts? They're doing it.
And actually, I'm just going to call them out right now. We asked them about, being a guest here, and we haven't heard back. So
I sent you an email.
We sent you an email. I mean, it's fine. It's fine.
We're just patiently waiting for that reply.
But seriously.
Yeah, because who did they just sign? Who's doing content?
Charlie Behrens.
Yeah, and Melanie loves her some Charlie.
Does love her some Charlie Behrens. And I got to say, sometimes I find it annoying when things that I used to like become cool because I'm like, well, I obviously knew they were cool the whole time because there was a Quick Star in Cedar Falls where I went to college. Mm-hmm. And let me just tell you about the breadsticks that they have.
Yeah,
and I haven't eaten lunch today, so I think I might actually go get it. It's a breadstick with cheese in the middle.
Yes.
And I don't know, healing effects.
Is this the same gas station that has the chicken sandwiches? Oh, I'm different college. Whoa. I went to Warburg rather than Cedar Falls, sorry.
Yeah. I mean, they're only like a few miles away from each other.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
But yeah. So I'm jealous of a gas station's glow up.
That's what I was going to get into. Like, what all of a sudden happened where gas station social media accounts are just, they're popping. They're just popping.
They are popping, and we're actually glad they're popping because of some of the work we're doing with a partner we can lean into that you are leading and just kicking ass on, let me just say. So everyone go follow, what's it called?
Drive Clean Iowa on Instagram. We are making some real content with the kids.
It is. Shelby is tapping into her inner child.
Yeah, maybe they're rubbing off on me.
That's probably exactly what's going on. There's no youth here.
Yeah.
Which is fine.
But no, that's been really fun to dive into. And yeah, we're constantly looking at what Quick Trip is doing. We'd love to work with them. And it's been a fun project to be a part of.
Come on, Quick Trip. Don't be too good. You're not. I mean, you're doing great.
I know. Don't make me like pump your tires.
Yeah.
Is that what the phrase is?
Yeah.
Pump
Rodney's
up your
covering his
tires?
head. I don't know.
What? Not brakes. Pump you up, like,
I will bump you up.
whatever. Well, that's not.
Nope.
I'm going to pump your tires, like, pump you up.
Yeah.
He won't look up. Okay.
So, all right.
On that note,
yeah.
we're so excited to introduce you to Heather and her amazing business out in the East Village. Like, seriously, go grab some girlfriends, grab your spouse, your kids, go get your photo taken. It is truly a one-of-a-kind experience.
Do it. Then we can all talk about it, about our auras and how we're just so in touch with ourselves. And that just makes you seem more interesting. And don't you want to see more interesting? I do. I want to see more interesting. So enjoy. Thank you. Bye. Welcome, Heather Roe, to the Jealous Podcast.
Hi.
How are you doing?
I'm great, thanks.
Amazing. Well, Shelby and I had the experience to meet you before we recorded, which we will get all into later, but we were so glad to be able to do that because we usually just bring him in and figure out if this is going to work or not, and we knew this was going to work. So you are the owner of, do you pronounce it Kin DSM or do you Kin Des Moines?
Either one works.
All right. And so we got to go visit, and
In the East Village, and it was so cute.
it was amazing. Like I'm drawn back. So whatever you got going in there, which I know is a lot, it's working because I'm feeling the draw to come back.
Uh-huh.
So that is who you are in a very short blip. But who are you in your own terms, in your own explanation?
I would say I'm a seeker. I'm somebody who is looking to explore things that might not be as mainstream. And I'm always trying to evolve as a human and to look at patterns in my life and kind of stitch those together and notice the positives and the negatives, like we were talking about, taking experiences and trying to examine what is this experience doing for me and teaching for me, and am I even capable of receiving this lesson? Yeah. And I would say I'm a business owner. And then I just opened the camera business recently. I'm a mother of 2. I'm a wife. I got roped into being the PTA board president this year.
Oh, my God.
That's a title.
So,
That is a title.
So because I'm not an alcoholic, I think I'm doing pretty well. Yes.
Yeah.
We're still here.
I am hanging in there by a thread,
Oh
and
my
I'm not an
gosh.
alcoholic. So
Good for you.
Yes.
That is a win. Yeah, you deserve to pat yourself
That's funny.
on the back. Well, that's enough to be jealous of right there. But Shelby and I are both drawn to you, so I'd say we can co-attack this one. We can both share our jealousy.
I became jealous of you after our experience at the shop actually last week because, jealous, and you kind of like, what do I envy of that person, or what qualities do they have that I wish I could entail? And like with this, I could see a lot of jealousy for people arise, but you handled it in such a way where it was like, you empowered me with the colors that appeared on my chart and who I am, and it didn't make me like want to compare myself to someone else. So that was a really cool like takeaway I got from my experience with you last week, and one of the reasons I'm jealous of you. That is just an amazing quality to have.
It is. And jealousy is such a funny concept, especially when we talk to someone like you who is all about exploring your experiences and making sure that the next day version of yourself is better, because jealousy is always, right? Jealousy is like a dirty word.
Yeah, I would say, well, when I was trying to parse out the word and I was thinking about it, I would say it's always been so much easier for me to say envy,
right,
or envious, because jealous does have that dark connotation, but it's also something that, you're drawn to. Mm-hmm. It's easier almost to relate to that version of the word than it is to stop and be like, is this jealous? Is it envy? What exactly is this?
Yeah.
Am I coveting something?
Right.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, just as a little background, we told you this is our COVID baby, and it's just, as creatives, do you consider yourself a creative?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like it's so common for us to see someone else doing something or creating something like in our same arena and just be like, I'm so jealous of that person. So we just want to figure it out. But yeah, we use it to motivate. We use it as a tool to motivate ourselves rather than to drag ourselves down. And so in turn, we get to bring in really cool people like you. So really, it's very self-serving. It's very self-serving, and it probably, it's nothing to
we're both a little woo-woo, so we were really excited to have you on and just talk about it. We're the only two that would have been able to.
Definitely. We were planning out our schedule, and we're like, we need to, all these business owners are great, but we need to lean into ourselves a little bit. So we found you. You rose to the top so fast.
What got you interested, kind of talking about woo-woo, into the woo-woo side of things? Have you always been that way?
And does that word offend you?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
That's a good question.
I feel like there are far more derogatory terms for that whole world and space than woo-woo. I actually find that to be kind of adorable. There are really a lot of different factors that brought me onto the path, and then having the business that I do, which is still wild to me sometimes that this business is working, and it'll be 5 years in September.
Oh my goodness, congrats.
Is mind-blowing. Thank you. I cannot wait to plan the party. You are both invited.
Oh,
all of you listening are invited.
All right. We will not let that moment pass.
Good callback.
Thank you.
So growing up, my dad was really into turquoise jewelry and specimen collecting. That's what some rock hunters consider themselves, specimen collectors, which is cool. It's just one word for the same thing, because some people love the rocks without thinking about the meanings and what they can do for you and their properties. Some are just drawn to the beauty. And he had an extensive specimen collection. And my parents would take me to jewelry shows and rock shows growing up. And my mom would go to sort of the polished cut gemstone side, the jewelry side. Yeah. And then my dad would go to the collectibles, the crystals, the specimen side. And so I kind of got the best of both worlds. And then I've always been really drawn to vintage and collected a lot of turquoise jewelry and vintage jewelry. So this was my dad's, and this was my dad's, and he has so much turquoise jewelry that I have plenty for both my children to inherit should they want that too. And then some of them I did let go of at the shop, but I knew they needed to find homes of people that would really appreciate it. So when I moved to Des Moines, I asked my husband where I could go find crystals here, and the places that I went were fine. They just weren't exactly for me. They just didn't feel like the kind of place I wanted to get my crystals. So I had this idea to have a jewelry shop and have home goods that were mostly all made by women. And from there, it kind of snowballed. I had my dad's specimens hanging on the wall when I first opened. So I really wasn't focusing on the crystals at all. And people kept coming in and trying to buy my dad's crystals, and I got really tired of having to explain to them, like, they're not for sale, they're my dad's, and they just they're here because I want a piece of them here, and so I slowly started bringing in crystals, and I'm really picky about the crystals I bring in. I wouldn't say I'm a crystal store. Some of the candles that I have crystals in them, and I have crystal jewelry, and I do have standalone crystals, but I handpick everyone, and I'm really careful about, countries I buy from, people I buy from. I can, even if I get a great deal, I'll walk away from a deal if that person has, crappy vibes.
Oh, yeah.
And then, females in the rock industry are sorely underrepresented. So if I can ever get my hands on a female rock hound or a female crystal wholesaler, I feel like I've won the lottery.
Yeah.
And I have a few of those in my satchel of secrets, and they may or may not have to do with some of my RV trips this summer. So it's really exciting for me that I found this angle and this point of view that I'm coming from, because it feels really good. It's an homage to my father, and yet I get to put my money where my mouth is and really support the women that I want to support in small business and the entrepreneurs. And then I also have the added benefit of these amazing, beautiful crystals in my store and crystal-centric goods that it just feels really light and happy in there. It doesn't feel like sad bad, dusty, dark crystal shop.
No.
Right.
And it just kind of evolved from there. So things unfolded, and now I don't. When I first started, I would have to sort of pitch myself to certain lines that I wanted to carry. Yeah. And now what's amazing is, having been in business almost 5 years, a lot of the lines are coming to me. And I mean, that makes me feel amazing. Every time I get a new email from a little line, I can't even believe how lucky I am to be in this position. But as you both saw, my shop is extremely small, and we are always running out of space. So yeah, I know I've outgrown that space, but I also really, really love the block I'm on. I love my neighbors. I love having the loft for pop-ups. So it's hard for me. I also don't really feel like moving. That was a drag when I did it the one time.
Oh, I know. I'm moving homes right now, and so I can relate a little bit.
Congrats.
Thanks. Thanks. And to that point, when we came in last week, and yeah, your shop is beautiful. It is so light. It does not feel like a dark and drear. It is. I love it. Like, I'm not kidding. I want to come back. But I was on the hunt for a crystal that would help me through all this change that I'm going through, because I am pregnant. We are moving. I'll be gone from here for 3 months. There's just a lot going on. And so, yeah, you helped point me in the direction of 2, and I ended up walking away with the onyx. But can you kind of talk through how each one has meaning and how you kind of started to go down that path? I mean, yeah, talk about that. It's so interesting to me.
Yeah, just as a warning, if anyone has an addictive personality listening, crystals can be fairly addictive, and they're never ending in how new crystals are discovered all the time. It feels like you can never have enough knowledge. I'm constantly learning. I'm constantly, when I go to the crystal shows and the gem shows, finding out like, oh, there's this new crystal that they've discovered, and it's the hot new crystal that year. And it's really hard to remember all of the properties and meanings of the crystals, but throughout the years I've started teaching. Pre-pandemic, at least, I had a crystal basics workshop, which was super, super fun. I held that recently at Art Terrarium.
Oh, yeah.
Because they have a workshop room, and it's beautiful. It is. And so we do a full moon or a new moon ritual there, the shop does. And then I figured, instead of cramming people into my space, which I'm not ready for just yet, I'll do it there. And it worked out really well. So teaching about crystals, I feel like there are some basic crystals, and onyx for you, I feel like would be lovely, gentle, supportive. It would ground. It's also really good in assisting with change because of that grounding, balancing property. And it's not, so within the black or dark crystal territory, you can, just like in any of the colors of the crystals, you can get gentle to more intense in terms of how they make you feel. So if a crystal has a particular vibration, I always tell people to sort of feel around with your left hand, because your left side's your receiving side, and you might have the better chance of feeling a vibration or a heat signature or something telling you that that's a good crystal for you at that moment. As humans, we have, unstable vibrations. We're a crystalline structure, just like every other living thing. And so anytime our vibrations or our frequency gets out of whack, little things that raise our vibration, it could be a plant, it could be a crystal, it could be thinking of something that makes you really happy, a memory or a person or a situation that you were really happy. Just recalling that can raise your vibration. So the reason I think crystals are having such a moment is because the people who believe they actually work and they're not just these gorgeous things get a lot out of them. And it makes us feel better.
Yeah.
But for the people who collect them just because they're pretty rocks, I've got nothing against that. You know what I mean? Like, I loved my dad's point of view on it too. He just thought that crystals were just very beautiful, and he wanted to have them around the house. So it's kind of the same thing, but on a different way of getting there, right?
It is. Like, if you value something, you value it because of a reason. So you're putting something into it, and if it's making you feel better, then good. Yeah. It's so interesting. I could talk about this for hours.
Oh, me too.
But we won't make you do that.
Now we're going to kind of go into, so you got your crystals. And when we were there, we got your aura photograph taken. So that was really interesting. That's kind of how we kind of got involved with looking into you because we were super interested in getting our aura read. So how did you get into the photography side of that?
Okay, so the short version of the longer story is that pre-pandemic, I had been looking to open up a second location. I moved to Des Moines from Chicago. Before that, I lived in San Diego, and I had always kind of wanted to get back to the West Coast. In some way, shape, or form. And as you know, real estate's so reasonable there. So I was thinking, well, this might allow me to have sort of the best of both worlds. I might be able to satisfy my missing of California so much and still have this life in Iowa. But then the pandemic happened, and even though I was working with a commercial broker out there, I realized, sadly, that it wasn't going to be in the cards for me and that I maybe had to let that dream go. And it was really, really hard. Mm-hmm. But I have now channeled that into something I was just thinking about because I had an aura photographer popping up at the shop, and he would come in maybe 3 or 4 times a year, and it was always really popular. It really helped build the reputation of the shop at first. Because before, you could only really get your aura photographed in bigger cities, or you could get them done at, a metaphysical fair or whatever. And so when he would come in at the shop, I would just book him out. It would always be sold out. So I would say shortly after he started doing pictures again, when people started opening back up after the mandatory closures, he started having, sadly, physical heart issues. And he's in his 80s, and he had been doing it for decades. And his name is Larry. He's just the loveliest person in the world. And he would drive down from Cedar Rapids to do these photos, and he just couldn't keep making it work. And so then I had to think about, I was, letting go of the stream of a California version of Kin, and I was also possibly saying goodbye to this amazing presence in my life and in my business. So I started doing the research and looking up the camera, and there's like one company that makes them, and they've made them for decades. It's the same company Larry got his from. And I decided to pull the trigger. And in the 6 to 8 months that my camera was being manufactured, I worked on the branding, and I worked on the pricing and looking around at, what is the person in Nashville pricing them at, and what the Chicago and New York and LA, and then thinking I have to think about Des Moines because Des Moines is not Nashville or LA or New York or Chicago. And then figuring out how I'm going to make a go of it, having the shop and children and my husband and my mom's
PTO president.
my mom, yes, PTA president. My mom's moving with us, all this other stuff. So I had enough time to figure out how I wanted to present it. And I did have to make some sacrifices for it, but those were great sacrifices to make because in the 6 to 8 months, I did a ton of research. I read every book I could get my hands on. I kind of tried to talk to as many people as I could meet that did something similar. And I came up with my own point of view on it. And then all I had to do was, I had listened to Larry do the pop-ups, but I wasn't listening like I was going to take over his business someday. I was just sort of like, this is cool, this is great. So I had picked up stuff. But then when I started doing it, I had a very bumpy ride getting the camera set up. It was super finicky at first. I had to send it back. They sent me a loaner, like a car.
Gosh.
Oh, I know.
Oh, yeah.
It was
Take this for a spin.
Bananas. And I ended up finding out that this was a really good challenge for me in terms of it's never going to happen exactly how you think it's going to happen. You're not just going to set your expensive camera up and everything's going to work perfectly. And boom, you just have a business. Right. Congratulations. Instead, it's like, is the camera not working? Are you going to spend 4 hours trying not to cry because you just announced on social media you were doing walk-ins?
Oh, my gosh.
And then, sort of everything that could go wrong was going wrong at the beginning. And then that drew my focus away from the studying because then I was in this constant state of setting up like, is it going to work this time? Is it going to work this time? And I wish I had just pulled the trigger on sending the camera back because it was just a setting that wasn't set correctly. But it wasn't something I could manage on my own. So as I opened in November, I decided I was going to roll it out for Holiday Promenade, which is a big deal in the East Village. Yes. People come, maybe, it's their one time a year. They come down to the scary parking situation in the East Village. And they come
that reverse parking.
Oh my gosh.
Gotcha.
We have more garages now, by the way, people. $1 an hour.
There you go.
So I rolled it out during that point. I ended up hiring some seasonal staff to cover what I would have been if I had been in the front of the shop. And it worked out really, really well. And from November till now, I think I've done over 800 pictures.
Oh, my goodness.
Wow.
Which is bananas.
Yeah.
And I feel like such a huge shift for me in terms of just like with anything else, if you spend that much time immersed in studying something and researching and noticing patterns, like I hand out a color sheet with the pictures, and I'm on my 5th edition now of revising it. And I'm proud of that because as I'm noticing new patterns, I'm changing the definitions of what the colors necessarily, they're all in the same wheelhouse, but I'm finding myself more and more, I wouldn't call myself an expert. I would say I'm more knowledgeable now. And then I get a lot of security out of that.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of that way with anything too, right? Like we're in this marketing world where things are constantly changing as well. And as soon as you have version 3 done, version 4 is getting ready to come out too. Yeah. So you just got to always adapt and always learn in that situation too. So how does the camera work? Can you kind of explain that process? Because we had to put our hands on the thing.
It felt legit. Let me just say, I felt very comfortable. We'll get into that, but yes.
And I didn't realize it was 15 seconds. So when I took my photo, I smiled and I heard the first beep and I stopped. I'm like, oh, it's still going. I had no idea.
Yeah, some people can photograph very quickly, and some people it takes...
You were just too complex.
Well, as you can see.
I mean, that is a rainbow. It's a beautiful, beautiful pastel rainbow. So Kirlian photography started in the 40s by a Russian researcher, and his last name is Kirlian, so the camera is named after him, and it's gone through iterations. And there's not many people who manufacture this kind of camera, but it's based off of a Polaroid land camera. And I don't know if anybody knows what those were like, but my father actually had one, and it took the coolest Polaroid photographs. And since Polaroid and Fuji and Kodak have all had issues producing, staying in business, like keeping the same film in stock, cameras shifting into digital, all this and this, that, and the other. The Aura camera has gone through iterations of what kind of film it uses too. So it comes and you can tell it's been adapted from a land camera, and then it has cords galore. It's a real dicey situation. It feels like sometimes
when kids
vintage. When kids come in, I'm like
vintage.
I'm gonna take a deep breath right now. It's gonna be fine.
Touch that.
They're gonna be great. It's not like I don't know my own children who are terrifying. So it comes with these 2 hand plates, and 1 or 2 people can sit. And if it's 2 people, a duo, each person would have a different hand plate. And so for a single person, one person puts their hands on both of the hand plates, and it's reading the corona discharge. It's an electromagnetic reading, and it sends it to the software, this proprietary software in the camera, and you will get a printout of how your aura maps out. And then on the other side is the software's version of a unique to you informational sheet about your colors. The color sheet I was referring to earlier is something that I have put together based on collating and collaborating and doing all of my own noticing of patterns and interesting things. So I give that to people too. And then I sit and I talk with them about the placement of the colors and what I interpret that to be. And oddly enough, an aura photographer, a very famous one, released a book in 2021, and it's almost, the timing was divine for me, because the Aura camera actually didn't come with much of a manual. Don't be shocked, but I mean, this really insanely, incredibly expensive piece of equipment came with like a manual that's like, good luck. Not even a diagram of where to put everything. I mean, when I tell you it was weeks and weeks and weeks, if not months of trial and erroring this thing, it was hilarious. But all that to say, I'm not exactly sure of the science, but when you pull out the definition of it being based on etheric energy patterns around living things, and it's something known as a corona discharge, and the fact that it can, even if you can find an animal to stand or to sit still enough, you can put an animal paw on the plate, and you can still get an interesting aura photograph. It's super fascinating. So I'm not exactly sure about the science part of it. I mean, I kind of dropped that ball in school anyway, so I don't know if I would be the best expert to tell you exactly how it worked, but it's super interesting. And I mean, I legit know it works because not only is my daughter, I have a 7-year-old daughter who she's really tuned in, and she has these like really interesting abilities, and she acts in a lot of ways like my mother. And then my mother has similar abilities, and just kind of an all-knowing. My mom is a very old soul, and she's been around the block in terms of, I just think she's lived a lot of really interesting lives, and she brings that knowledge into this life. And I think that they're very similar, and they have the exact same aura.
Oh my gosh.
The same color, the same placements, the same patterns, everything. It is wild. So little coincidences like that, I really do believe in this. And there is even a color for skeptics. If the skeptic comes and sits in the chair, they will most often photograph as red.
Oh, interesting.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not have red.
No, I want to point out that both of you are not all red.
Yeah.
No, I have some orange in there. It's kind of reddish, but I loved this experience, and I think even if you are a skeptic, I think people, like humans, just crave to know more about themselves, or to even maybe know other people's perceptions, maybe even more, other people's perceptions of themselves, and maybe it's like a ego thing. I don't know exactly what that's not why we went, of course. I promise. But it was just so interesting, and the way that you did set us down and explain it, and the things you were saying were aligning with how I feel. Or you asked me one question, and something about the baby, and even like the force potential, like energy. I was just like, I left and I just felt empowered, and I felt like this feels really, really, really good. I don't know.
Right.
How did you feel, Shelby?
I agree the same way. I felt so empowered. It was kind of cool too to see reflection. Like, I do see myself, like after you explained it to me, like that is how I see myself. So it was kind of reassuring too, like, oh, that is the energy I have and I'm giving out.
And you're putting out,
Yeah, I relate to it and I connect with that as well. So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
Part of it.
Do you ever get people who get their auras ready, you sit down with them and they disagree, or they have something that they have to come to terms with?
I would say yes, both. So even though I've done so many pictures on my own since November, there have been a couple conundrums, energetic conundrums, where somebody has sat down and I've felt their energy and I've guessed what their color would be, and I'm getting better as time goes on, thankfully. And they sat down and they photographed not as the color I thought they were, or that talking to them after the picture, I would think that they were. And so I'll go through the sort of checklist, because if certain things are happening in your life, there's a chance you'll photograph as one particular color, and that can come and eclipse your normal color, because it can be a really intense, powerful experience, and that can affect your auric identity. And this person who I really thought was going to photograph as blue photographed as red, and I was going down this list, and they're like, nope, none of that is speaking to me. Nope, I'm not going through any of that. And so it might have been a little of column A and column B for this person.
Yeah.
Like they weren't willing to come to terms with something, or But so most people settle into an auric identity in their adolescence. That's why children photograph as rainbows, they call them, like a ton of different things happening. There are some children who come in and are I just had a family of 5 come in, and all 4 children photograph like adults, like little adults.
Oh my gosh.
They were so just in their energy already and very sure of themselves. And that's not typical. And then if an adult photographs with a bunch of colors, it usually means they have a lot going on and they're being pulled in a lot of different directions, right? So there have been really interesting instances of also people over the pandemic. I will have known what their aura picture used to be like because they would come in once or twice when Larry would have a pop-up. And then I've noticed a shift of people's energy becoming more introverted colors, tending towards the doing more inner work, like you were just saying. I think people are so much more curious because we all ran out of things to cook and to do for exercise, and we ran out of new makeup looks for Zoom, and then eventually we just all started turning inward and like, what are we going to do on the inside? And so some people started studying Reiki, and some people started exploring all of these different avenues because there's a whole world of things that you can start exploring about yourselves. So I would say there was a little bit of a shift for people when I was doing aura photographs after we reopened, where they were photographing with just more the more internal colors. And then some people just keep the same energetic identity, like, pandemic didn't affect them at all. And then I would say it's interesting to me to see an evolution in what's really nice and validating, I think, for the person who's getting photographed and for me, is to see a shift in their aura, and we start talking about it, and it is something they've been consciously working on. And that nothing feels better than to stumble on that together and to be like, look, it is literally showing up in your aura. Like you working on this.
Right. So it's kind of cool. You can come back after you feel like however 6 months, a year, whatever it is, and you can see a change within yourself in a photo. Yeah. So something cool to keep up with too.
It is.
This rainbow mess.
Chaos. No. But for as chaotic as that looks, you put out a very calming energy, I will say, Shelby. What is your definition? We probably should ask this first, of aura. Like, what does someone's aura mean? What is that?
I would say an aura or an auric identity is the energy that is around your human form. And I mean, some people have small auric fields and some people have very big auric fields. I would say if you've ever been able to sort of feel someone's energy or personality before you actually got to meet them, that's part of their aura. It's this energy that is around every living thing that emanates and vibrates. And it's crazy that we can capture it on film. It's different for every single person, although people might have similar auric identities. I find that a lot of family members, like I mentioned, my mom and my daughter take after each other.
That's so cool.
It's really wild. Cool. I see families who photograph as very similar. They can have the same color patterns with just different placements. I see a lot of friend groups, actually. Sometimes they'll come in, and it's so interesting to see that they've found each other, not just based on shared interests, but because of a shared energetic field almost.
Yeah. That is so cool. We've had people on the podcast, one in particular, talking about vibrations and things. And I know, I believe this all to be true, by the way. So he went on this 11-day retreat. And 4 of those days he was by himself. And he only had water, no access to food or anything. So they say when you kind of limit yourself from those things, you're more in tune with your body and nature and everything. And so he was picking up the patterns of these birds. They would fly down and come down to this river every morning. And then he could even feel the energy of nature and this animal that crawled by. He could feel it. And then I listened to another podcast about this guy who was he got lost on one of those crazy marathons out in the desert, and he had no food, no water, and he could feel the energy and the vibrations of like the lizards and like the scorpions.
Crazy.
And so I know, and I was like, that stuff's real. It's real. How is it not real? I don't know. I'm not like preaching it to you. We see it. It's so like this looks completely different from that. And yeah.
Do you want to kind of start to go through like what do you look for in a photo, or the colors, or kind of because you talked about the internal, external, like kind of dive into the photo and what you look for in that.
Yeah, so if you cut one of the aura photos in half, on your left side, you have your feminine side. This is your receiving side. And this is where energy comes into your auric field. So I can tell an example. When my son was being treated, and we had just gotten a diagnosis after being on this interminable waiting list, because there's like, one specialist in the state of Iowa, maybe two, to diagnose these child issues. So we had finally got in, and he had been diagnosed as having anxiety, ADHD, and an emotional delay. It had been a very rough couple of years of him acting aggressively and us just trying to figure out how to help him and how to make everything better, because you never want to see your child be in that much turmoil and not have an instant solution for them. So he was starting to be treated. That was another weird bumpy journey of, is it the right dosage? Like, is it the right medicine?
Gosh, yeah.
You know, and so sometimes it would be, oh, that's clearly the wrong medicine. Or sometimes we'd be like, that's the wrong dose. And so it was very, very bumpy. Also, he was in, he's in elementary school. So,
buddy,
this was all a real adjustment period for us. And that we had all gotten our aura photos done via Larry at the shop. And my daughter went first. I think she was 3 at the time. She photographed us her usual unicorn self, just like my mother. And then my son went in, and he was 7 at the time. And he photographed, and he had this green healing orb coming into his left side. And then my husband and I photographed, and we had the same green orb coming in on our left side. And so as Larry explained it, and as I would explain it to somebody now, that was, Silas's treatment. It was coming into our fields, and it was going to pass through and exit out of our right once, everything was sort of settled. Green can mean a great healing or change or growth when it's coming into our auric field. But then if you're a green aura, if you have a green aura, I find that teachers or healthcare workers or counselors or people who work with children often have green auras. So it's this nurturing, compassionate, kind, counseling kind of energy. And then we've never photographed with that green orb now that we've found the right medicine for my son.
That gives me goosebumps.
Really,
oh my goodness.
Yeah, we've all gone back to our normal colors.
Wow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How cool is that? Yeah.
So for you, on the left side, there's a lot of bright orange. And then on the right side, it's a deeper orange. There's a lot more unconditional love energy. Our right side is our masculine side. That's our giving side, and that's where energy exits our auric field. So if anything was just passing through, it would come in on the left, and it would move on through to the right, and then it would eventually not be captured in an aura photograph. But, oranges are adventurous, and they're creative, and they take risks. And they live from this place of living life fully and really embracing an exciting life. One of the things oranges do not love is stagnation, though. Oranges really like to keep it popping. Oranges really
keep her going, keep her moving,
keep her popping.
Oranges like the new people, places, things. They like to travel. They just want to keep things fresh and interesting. So. I would say also, though, one of the best qualities of oranges that I've noticed is an orange loves to be a genuine cheerleader for others, loves to see people they love succeed. That's really one of the great qualities of orange. And you read as an orange, right?
Yep.
On your sheet. That's what I'm thinking. And then we talked about your throat chakra recently being unblocked, didn't we?
Yes.
So yeah, when I see a chakra dot, this is a really large unblocking this.
You're blocked.
Like, it feels very clear to me. And I think that's really, really beautiful, especially considering what you're doing, which is speaking and talking and communicating with people, and also communicating for other people, because you're the intermediator between somebody and then, you know, everybody listening, your audience. So that's really incredible. And I love the unconditional, this like hot pink energy. I do feel like is that's internal. That's for you and the baby.
Oh, yeah. I love it. I love it.
And then transitioning, I feel like we talked about, you have the green and the blue. Let me see your readout here. Yeah, you had that really interesting green and yellow and green, but then we actually got a peekaboo blue instead of green on that one side. And that's one of the fun things, was terrifying at first. Fun thing now about the camera is that it would map out as a particular group of colors on the software, what your energy read on the hand plates, and then I would see something different on the film. And for a while, I didn't understand that until I did a lot more research, and I realized that it was because something is currently happening that is eclipsing your normal color on that side. Oh. And it's just an intense experience that will eventually kind of phase out of your aura when it's resolved, or when you've come to terms with it, or you've made peace with it. But instead of green on your right side, you have this beautiful indigo and blue. And we talked about this being similar to a sort of seeker energy. Blues are emotionally sensitive. Blues are very loyal. They pride themselves on being amazing friends. Friendship is very important. One of the things about blues is that they tend to take on the emotional baggage of others. So it's always important to have energetic and emotional boundaries as somebody who has blue in their aura. And then you have some unconditional love happening here. And then we talked about your fun little disciplined arc over your head. And that is something that I found was not accurate. And a lot of people would be like, what are you talking about? When it was just for, if I saw yellow in somebody's aura, I would say, do you find yourself to be an organized or disciplined person in any part of your life? And most of the time, 9 times out of 10, they said no. And then I started writing down the patterns of things that I was seeing repeated. And then I would ask that question to just people who had this particular shade of like an orange, yellow, beige in that particular placement. And that's the people that are really organized and disciplined in one or more areas of their life.
Yeah, I think we kind of talked about like because I have the orange of like you want to be spontaneous and go out and do these things, but then you have the yellow come in and be like, are you sure? Like, is that going to work out? Like coming in and
we laughed because the morning that we were going to do this, and I was like, I'm working from home, and you're like, should I work from home? No, I'm not. And it was just like a perfect example, and a tiny example, but I'm like,
no, welcome to my life.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
My mom gets a lot of calls.
Yes.
What do you think?
Tell me what to do. Yeah, so that little blip of yellow is going to have you, it's that little voice in the back of your head that is constantly questioning what your orange wants to do. Mm-hmm. But it's good to have that kind of e-brake on your car, right?
Would you say like embrace that, or?
Yeah, I would make it playful.
Yeah.
You know, I try to, I think there's not much more fun than a person who can laugh at themselves. Yeah. And if there's something you really don't like about yourself, because I have a litany of things I don't love about myself and I wish I could change, but it is so much more fun to live life being like, so I'm just going to be really playful about this. Yeah. And if you're going to be in my life and you're going to be my friend, heaven forbid you're married to me, you're going to get a lot of questions about whether or not this was the right move. And I'm going to sit there and I'm going to think about that one thing I said to that one person, and it's going to suck up my thinking for like 48 hours. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But it also, it makes it a lot easier to sort of recognize, laugh at, live with our shortcomings, because I wouldn't consider it to be a shortcoming. Some moms would kill to have a child who's still calling them at all.
That's
you know what I mean?
That's so true.
So I love that you have a lot going on. And once we talked it through, it all made a lot of sense. But every single color has amazing qualities. I get asked a lot of times, what if I photograph as black? And I say, that means the camera's broken.
We don't want that to happen.
That's not good. I already experienced that once.
Oh gosh.
And then 2, what are some of the negative qualities of my color? And there are negative qualities of every color, but I'm not going to put somebody in my room. It goes against everything I believe in my business to take them to Bummersville and be like, so BT dubs. So I try to make it funny in terms of like orange, joking around, because I'm also an orange and being like, it's hard to eat leftovers as an orange. We do not like having the same thing every day. So, and then with the yellow, I've had yellow in my aura at certain times in my life. And one time I photographed as all red. And that was the first time I'd had my aura photographed, and it was by Larry. And I wanted one of the sexy colors, like the purple or the white. And am I not evolved enough? Have I not done the work?
Oh,
I didn't even get any blue. Well, he goes,
That's
and
so
he
funny.
told me if I hadn't have photographed as red, he would have been worried about me and my business, because red is a doing color, and reds get it done. And while I'm building my business, I'm going to have red in my aura. So most people have the same energetic identities, and then you can see things reflected in them, or maybe that intense energy can eclipse your regular energy. And then there are some people, a smaller percentage of people, who can sit down and photograph as a different aura every time.
Oh,
and
wow.
They're considered color shifters. And
So do you ever do that? Like if you photograph again and you're like, ooh, this is new. Do you like ever check yourself? And what does this mean? What is happening? What has shifted from the previous time I was photographed? Because like, do you still have red that comes through your aura reading at all?
No, I have not had red repeat itself since that one time when I was literally building the shop. And I had also, red comes about for people who are at a crossroads too. And I was also dissolving, but I didn't know it. I was going to be dissolving my business partnership. And that was going to come in the next couple of weeks.
Oh, wow.
But I did take a Reiki 1 class, and it was an intensive, and it was lovely. And I mean, shout out to my teacher, Amber DM Hewer, because she was amazing. And I was curious if my colors were going to change after having been attuned for Reiki 1. And so I sat and I took a picture, and I got blue for the first time.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So you did.
So I finally got blue.
You did. You opened up. Oh, my gosh. Heather, I know we're short on time, but this was amazing.
Yeah.
The whole experience, you guys, you should go do it. So you are open for appointments, right? It's not walk-in anymore. We learned our lesson on that.
Well, no, it's all good. I do a couple days for walk-ins exclusively for people who don't want to keep to an appointment or whatnot, or are scared of the parking in the East Village. It's not that bad.
We had a great experience.
I promise.
I slipped right into a spot.
Me too.
So I'll do a couple days for walk-ins. I'll announce that on social media. If I have all of my act together, I'll send out an email for my mailing list, but don't count on it. I'm trying, guys.
You're busy. She's busy. Get off her ass.
And then I do a couple days of being scheduled so that the people who do want an appointment, they do not want to have to wait around, can just come right in at their time. And that's usually always on the website. I pick the dates a month in advance, and then I stick to those dates. I'm open for private parties, so if you have a group of 5 or more, just email me at the shop or DM me on Instagram, and we'll find a time that works for us. There's a special discounted rate. I've done bachelorette parties. They are so much fun to do. The bride-to-be almost always photographs as of red.
Oh,
yeah, because they are so close to being being done with all their
Stuff's
work.
about to change.
So yeah, I can't set the camera up all the time, but I do really. I'm open for small groups. One exciting thing is I'm going to be at 8035 this year.
Oh no way!
yeah.
That'll be a perfect group.
Oh, that's gonna go.
That's
so
really
well.
cool.
I'm so excited. So yeah, I'm accumulating all this stuff. Was able an aura photographer who does Pitchfork and Renegade Craft in Chicago gave me all her secrets.
Oh, cool.
So I am so
ready.
appreciative of that. Well, I'll let you know when I'm set up how it's going. I'm going to
We'll
send
come
you a
down.
message.
We'll come down and give you a drink or something.
Yeah, whatever you need.
Yeah.
you,
So what's
ladies.
your socials and website?
Okay, so the website is www.kindsm.com, so kindsm.com. And then the Instagram for the shop is kin.dsm. And then the Instagram for the aura photo business is at Kindred Auras. And that should all be on the website too. There's a big FAQ page on the website for Kindred Auras because I know it can be confusing, and it even talks about how we book it, how, private parties, how a little bit more about the camera and the history and all that. And if you have any other questions, I check my DMs every day and my emails almost every day.
Nice. Well, thank you so much for coming on and explaining this a little bit more. And thank you for reading our auras.
Yes.
So much fun. I loved it.
Thank
we
you
will be back
guys.
to the shop. I got my onyx, and then I also got a candle. It's called Patchouli Sweetgrass. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Divine.
That needs to be restocked.
Smells so good.
That
Smells so
PF
good.
candle company is amazing. And that onyx will be really good for you when you are in labor.
Oh my god. Okay. I will have I will have it.
Labor hack.
Here. Yeah, labor hack.
Just slip it into your
Oh man.
little bra or whatever.
I love it.
Thanks for having me, you guys. This
Thank
was really
you.
fun.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Bye.